What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Story Seller Jet with another episode of the That's So Fire talk show. Let's go. And we have here today with us Ron Earley.
Early. It depends on who
says it. No, it's my sexy accent. That's probably what happens. Ron Earley. Again, we talked about that earlier. Right? Early. Man, I'm super excited to have you in the talk show today. Like right before starting that, we got to chat a little bit, and super excited for the talk show today. I don't know why I keep saying podcast. It's a talk show, but super excited to have you. And I know that we're going to provide a lot of value to the people over here. And again, this is a talk show. We're going to be talking about a lot of different topics. We're not gonna be focused on anything, solely, but super excited to have you in the show today. So let's start by doing a quick introduction of who Ron Earley is, and then we'll dive into the talk show.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much. It's definitely a blessing to be able to be on here and be surrounded by good people. It's been a great community. My name is Ron Earley. I'm the owner and CEO of Grey Wolf Investing. I was partnered with Amazon at the very beginning of this year. I went a little over $2 million in debt acquiring a company called Automation Empire. It took 2 years for me to be able to convert that, be able to get my hooks inside Amazon's grasp, be able to hire some of Amazon's employees, and then create one of the largest wholesale networks inside of what Amazon calls their FBA experience. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We take non-traditional style investments for e-commerce platforms, and we provide it to everyday investors and people that want to be able to spend more time with their families.
That's awesome, man. When I was like reading your bio earlier, there's so much that you've obviously accomplished and like pivot and where opportunity knocks where like most people would not have even thought about it. Like you being in the gym and an opportunity like just happened to drop on your lap. Let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about the journey.
Okay.
Where did you get started?
It all happened by accident. No different, I guess, than anybody else. Everybody thinks that they have a purpose, but I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a right place, right time moment if you're not prepared for it. There's tons of right place, right time moments that have passed you by that you weren't even aware of just because you didn't have the necessary requirements to be able to capitalize on those things. And sometimes that's just taking our natural resources and being able to apply those things. I had moved and dropped out of my first semester of college in Pasadena Community College in California, and I was offered a job. I was going to school for firefighting. I guess I should preface with that.
Firefighting, yeah.
Yeah, and I was a tiny little guy. I definitely was not by any means average standards, but I had an uncle that was out there, and it's funny that God has a sense of humor the way that he does. Because I come from a family where my father is the second shortest out of 6 brothers, and he's 6'4" and 250 pounds.
Wow!
Any kind of
and the shortest.
Yes, second. It's any kind of indication of what kind of family tree I come from. So for that to be my passion and what I wanted to do, I was obviously lacking, somewhere. And I had an uncle that was fortunate enough that had a previous bodybuilding career that got me into weightlifting. So I was out there in college and I ended up falling in love with that. And I was offered a job back in Florida where I'd moved from, and I was already homesick, away from my family. And he's like, dude, you don't have to go 4 years to get this degree. You could just come do this. You make really good money doing what you love. And then if there's time that you want to spend creating your own thing, you'd be able to do that. So without hesitation, I ended up moving back. And literally upon me moving back, now I didn't necessarily need a degree to do what I did. I needed like an online certification per se.
Yeah.
Right, to do your training. You gotta know what you're doing before you walk people through your training exercises. You had to have somebody with a college degree that was called a director. That guy got fired 2 or 3 days after I showed up. So I just explained to my parents, I quit college, moved across the country, had this job I was gonna do, and now this guy gets fired and I don't have a way to get clients.
Wow.
So I'm going back broke. I can't even start this job. Yeah. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Yeah. Right. So I just did what I could, and I started walking the floor and I started recruiting these people. And I wasn't a booked assessment, like they would say, where you would take an hour with an individual and try to sell them on this, training program. I'd walk around for free and I would just train these people and I'd get their interest. And then it happened to be that I was the only one out of 8 gyms that were in the district, and we had the highest sales within like a 2-week period. And it's just because I was hungry. I was young.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any other responsibilities other than to go out and get it and try and make a name for myself at the time. And it really wasn't even about making a name for myself, just right place, right time, right?
Yeah.
I drew in direct attention to myself because they were trying to figure out how we had the highest sales, and we were the only gym with no director.
That is crazy.
I changed a company policy inside UFIT to where you no longer needed a college degree to become a director.
Yeah.
I became the youngest director inside that company, and they moved me across the state. And eventually, over the course of a 2-year period, I ran half the state of Florida for district directors. I taught sales.
That is crazy.
Yeah. There's a wild story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges now. You talk a little bit about the successes that you've had throughout that whole journey over there. Can we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced while pursuing that venture?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, let's definitely do that. We're matching. That's what broke me into social psychology and learning.
Social psychology.
Yeah, and learning how to talk to people and teach people what I did, because I learned really quick. They put me in charge of teaching these other people how to do what I did. And the irony sometimes in doing some of the things that you do is if you don't take the time to self-identify what it is that you're doing, it's really hard to replicate or to teach. So I found myself in this position where I had people twice my age that were already looking down on me because I just told you I just broke this paradigm inside this company where I needed to go through X amount of years of college, go through years of previous history inside a gym, and now I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me like, what are you going to teach me? I've been doing this
for
a decade and a half longer than you. And the irony was they weren't wrong, because I didn't know what I was teaching to begin with. I didn't know how to start. I didn't know where to go. I had no framework for any program or where to even assess some of these people to figure out what it was that they were doing so I could help fix it or correct it. I just knew that I was selling better than they were.
Yeah.
So I started to dig into psychology to figure out some of the fundamentals of some of the things that I was doing, because if I couldn't figure out what it was that I was doing that was getting people to buy, then I couldn't teach it to anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And
that's kind of what started by accident, really, what put me into the idea of there's something here with sales. You know, I can provide a lot of value here. I thought it was just going to be personal training and I was going to change people's lives through fitness. And then it became, I'm going to teach you how to communicate with other people, and I'm going to show you the impact versus being able to communicate to somebody that's trying to talk themselves out of bettering themselves, versus you showing them this is the right path to walk and it's worth you taking the time to spend your money on changing your own life.
Yeah.
I mean, these other people have families, and we're dealing with people on the regular that have type 1, type 2 diabetes. They're wildly overweight. They don't know what to do. They're looking at equipment. They're getting overwhelmed. It's like, if you don't take the time to walk those people through it, they're no different than they first walk through the door and just sign up for a membership. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to eat. They don't know what to do. And you don't know if they're going to be there for the family when the family needs them most. So that kind of started that open career path. And it had some wild turns, because there was a lot of resistance amongst my peers and the people that I was supposed to be training, versus us becoming honestly, the most profitable district inside the entire company.
Yeah.
Which led us to a different story, but
yeah, with all that friction now that, like, obviously you were successful at doing that, with all that friction now with the other people that are basically looking down at you like, hey, what are you going to be able to teach me and all of that?
Yeah.
Did you see a turn of events after that? Did you guys continue to excel, or did revenue go a different route after that?
So the company had some internal problems. Anybody that's followed the company, I won't speak entirely negative on them, but you can figure out what happened with the company because most of the gyms aren't around anymore.
Mm.
We hit a record high, and I was responsible for leading a team of individuals that knew that they had Christmas bonuses coming. And then I was told that I needed to explain to them that after it had already been hit and these people expected Christmas bonuses to come for them and their own family, that they were now being taken away, or the bar had to be raised. And that day, after a very heated debate between me and the individual that was my superior, I took my shirt off and I walked out of the gym that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you walked out of that gym. Did you have something already lined up, or like, did you know what we were going to be doing next?
No. That's the scary part. It's like me and my wife, ironically enough, just within that last 24 to 48 hours, had just had a conversation. You're not home a lot. You're making them a ton of money. You're spending all of your time elsewhere. We don't get a lot of time together. Even if we wanted to do something, we couldn't. Take that time and maybe we should apply it towards something that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then I got hit with my own moral beliefs and what I felt was okay and not okay. And it wasn't a matter of just like finally receiving respect from these people. I wanted them genuinely to be able to take care of the people that they cared about, you know, and they loved.
For sure.
For me to take that away after we worked so hard and built this relationship together was not okay. So that was kind of like the final straw.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got hit with a ton of bricks, man, because it was 2 days after that I found out, honestly, it might have been the next night after that, me and my wife found out that we had a baby on the way, which wasn't even supposed to be possible because we were told we weren't supposed to be able to have kids. So that was, this whole thing's been a roller coaster, man.
Yeah.
Had a lot of winds and turns, and it's been good though.
Yeah. So when you found out, I think from reading your bio and doing all of that, at that time, you had $12,000 left into your bank account, and you found an opportunity where you were investing $10,000 from that.
I panicked. I don't think that I actually chose the right path, looking back at what I did. And I mean, obviously, it ultimately led me to where I ended up, which I guess I can't say it was the wrong choice, but I went back to what I knew, not something that I took the time to educate myself on post. And what I mean by that is my family I grew up specifically in a family with my father. I told you I had 6 brothers. He kind of broke the paradigm, and he had the very first, we'll call it real successful business. And it was in the construction business. And at the time, Sarasota, Florida was one of the fastest growing cities, which you know this, and you're local in the area, in the country. I think it was the 3rd fastest growing city. So I went to my roots, and I now had a kid on the way, and I was going to do this thing, and I could sell these. I was going to get into concrete, construction, and flooring. You know, it's took the idea of entrepreneurs and fixing a problem, because nobody ever wants to do that.
Yeah.
And I was going to find a way to add a little, we'll call it pizzazz to it. I was going to sell that. That way, construction guys didn't want to do it. People still need it done. I'll fill the gap, right?
Yeah.
So I started, and I'm walking door to door, and I'm selling like these custom garage floors and what we're doing on these back patios and even some kitchens. And it's a hit or miss. It's really slow at this time. And regardless of before you lay any kind of like epoxy or stain work down, you have to do a floor grinder.
Yeah.
My credit was non-existent. It wasn't a good credit score.
Yeah.
And I ended up booking with a general contractor that had this community in a place called Rotunda, which was just outside of Sarasota. People got money there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did it. I told you. Here we are. Let's go. You know, and I called my uncle and I go, hey, man, I really need you. Like, we've been talking about doing this. I've been talking to you on the phone almost every single night. You've been encouraging me to do this. I want you to quit. I want you to come work with me. We'll be business partners. I don't have the money to buy this, or I don't have the credit to really finance this grinder, but if you come with me, I found a truck, $1,200. It's this old beat up F-150. We can go pick up the grinder today. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, I'm 100% serious. I got it. Like, we're good to go. This is on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. Pick up the truck, go pick up the grinder on a Friday. I dropped $24,000 on this grinder. I got $36,000. It's like 36 and change set aside. I'm hauling this $24,000 grinder with this $1,200 truck. Biggest smile in the world on my face. I made it. I figured it out. We show up on Monday morning. The contractor got fired.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
He lost the job.
So now you spent all that money and doing all of that.
Yeah.
And obviously also having, financial difficulties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What is next? How did you come out of that hole?
Man, it's the irony in the situation. It's like everybody feels like they have to have everything figured out in order to make this monumental success. And I rebuttal that. I don't think that that's the right way that things actually happen. I do think, again, that things fall into your lap, but you got to be able to take advantage of the right place, right time moment. But you got to be able to create those things. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I thought that I knew what I was doing. And I just put me and my wife in a really bad position because I just blew 2/3 of our money that I know I'm not getting back now. I just lost the job. I'm telling her before I go buy the grinder, hey, listen, I'm bringing Danny in, which is my uncle at the time. I will quadruple our money in a matter of maybe 4.5 months. And this is our good foot in the door. We can create a name for ourselves. So you don't have to look at it as money lost. We'll be able to get a house we won't rent anymore. I know we got Gray on the way, which is our first son. And then that all blew up in my face. And I'm thinking my world's ending. Like my face is melting in real time. I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, what am I going to do? And then not only that, I just had my uncle quit his job. Now it's his livelihood. So I did the only reasonable thing that you could do. I took 2 scoops of pre-workout and I went to the gym before going home. Had to burn off some steam.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I can get my head straight, you know, and I learned a valuable lesson that day.
Yeah. And what was that valuable lesson?
The valuable lesson was, if you're going to look for people, specifically contacts, and you want to network in places that don't have ordinary people there, you want to be able to kind of break a paradigm with the people that you could create a contact with. You show up to places that aren't normally filled on, and I hate to put it this way, but like a 9 to 5 job time slot. On a Monday morning, nobody's working out at the gym at 11 a.m. if you work a 9 to 5 job. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
I had an individual that followed me around the gym that day. And mind you, I just told you what I just came from in my background. So it's not like I didn't look then like what I look like now. Now I like to think that, you know, I'm fit, but I don't look like that. I don't look like I'm about to step up on stage. And he just kept asking me about this exercise. And I'm just like, dude, I just want to clear, like, you're testing my patience, Lord. And I'm trying to do my best. And I know that I asked for this and I prayed for this, but today's not the day. And this thing just kept going off his phone. Just ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, look, man, someone's clearly trying to get a hold of you. You should get that. And he turns around his phone and he goes, oh no, this is what I do for a living. He shows me Amazon notification, Amazon notification, Amazon notification. Sale, sale, sale. We had been standing there for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. He'd already made like $200.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, all right. Me and my wife have dabbled before in the past in eBay. The volume was nothing like that. And I'm seeing it in real time, how it works. So the thought's already kicking into my mind. I'm like, okay, this model has more traffic. He clearly knows what he's doing. And I'm kind of blown away by it. But at the same time, it's a little bittersweet because I'm just like, great, your business is working. Because mine just exploded in my face.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, listen, I teach people how to do this Friday through Sunday. It's an in-person workshop, but I charge $10,000. So again, I did the only reasonable thing, and I paid him $10,000 before going home.
And I think
say
that
reasonable,
was
lightheartedly, because
yeah.
I probably should have talked to my wife about that first.
That's what I was gonna say. You didn't even talk to your wife about that, and then $10,000, and that's crazy.
It was a lot. When I went home and I explained to her what I had seen, it was one of those reassuring moments that you have that I feel like every guy really longs for in a relationship. And that's a woman that trusts in him to lead. But I also think the inverse has to happen in order for people to have this idea of what a good relationship would be. Guys want a woman that will listen to them. I think guys also, though, in turn, need to learn or earn the right to be able to lead the woman first. I tried to show her why I made those decisions. And I think that she knew that the first one just happened to be a really bad roll of the die.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that if we didn't have the experience before in the past with eBay, she probably wouldn't have came around to Amazon the same way that we decided to come to a conclusion with it, because we went full throttle in it. And within like the first 14 to 17 days, I had made a third, if not half of my money already back.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to ask you how she took you spending that $10,000, because that happens immediately after, did you end up selling those machinery and stuff like that? Or did you get any of that money back?
It was a hard pill for me to swallow at first, because you can exchange blades on a machine and you can fine tune one and clean one. It's not like I could return it. People could buy a brand new one for 24 grand. Used ones were going for like 17. So immediately I was taking a very hefty loss, regardless if it was brand new or not. It's still used because it's not coming off the showroom floor.
Yeah.
It also couldn't be financed. Most people could finance the machine at that time. They weren't paying in cash.
Yeah.
I took a big cut when that time rolled around for me to be able to finally sell it and depart from it.
Yeah.
Like almost half.
Yeah.
I was also in a more comfortable position at that time, and I was just like, all right, we gotta get this thing out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me back to like my next point. Bring me to my next point. about having a wife that supports you and that believes in you. And you say something very key right now. You have to earn the right to kind of be able to do that. So let's talk about you and your wife's relationship, and how did you guys meet, by the way?
She was in a very tight-knit family and didn't get out a lot. It took me a long time. I hit puberty 2 years ago.
I hit puberty 2 years ago.
Yeah, dude, it was not a pretty globe for me. It took a long time, and I was going through a phase there for a short period of time where I was going to get out and do my thing, and I had come out of a serious relationship that I feel like for most guys puts them in a rut where they're like, okay, let's not be this way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then I met her. And I think that we both were under a mutual agreement that we weren't going to have anything serious, which is wildly ironic. The expectation thing we talked about to kick this off, we kept coming back to each other. And then it was after she had went away for a period of time, I'm like, all right, I don't want you to go away ever. I think that we should just go do this thing on the other side of Florida. She was supposed to go to college for a soccer career and pursue that. And then I had this thing going on with UFIT, and I was promised the sun, moon, and stars, and I was going to take care of us and do our thing, and we were going to travel. And that's kind of where it started. And I think a lot of it had to do with the building the trust factors. Me telling her the things that I said I was going to do, but me also pulling off things as I was saying I was going to do them. Like me being in the youngest company and pulling that off was no easy feat.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do that on purpose? No. Love to take credit for it, but no, I mean, most people can't foresee things like that. But I do think that if you want to start to establish, contrary to popular belief, if you want to start establishing those foundational steps, and this is one of those things that we talk about with sales and social psychology, make micro promises. It could be things that you're going to do every day. Just more about building believability in somebody so they can, I hear most times than not, your wife was willing to trust you with the majority of your money to go invest into this thing. My wife's not okay with me doing that. How do I get her onto the same level? Start with micro trust. Say that you're going to go do something and then do it. Like you're going to pick up dog food on the way home, or you're going to take care of dinner and get dinner. And it's something that's absolutely like a controllable that you can just do. And people are like, oh, that feels like manipulation. It's not. It's you following through on your word. You should prove that you're willing to follow through on your word and give it to the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. That way they know that they can trust you. They can depend on you. And then when it comes to more important decisions like that, and you're actually right, you're sure that you're right, which I wasn't the first time. When it comes time to make that decision, you'll have her support.
Yeah.
But you do have to earn it.
Yeah. That was fire. There's so much truth and so much greatness in what you just said over here. Earn the right to be able to, do that with your wife. Like for me, for example, I just had that conversation just about a week or two ago.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, life gets busy. She literally told me that I value my business more than my family, which is not true. Just because at that time I was spending so much time here and trying to, get things going. But at the same time, I was not making those micro trust little thing, building it over time.
Yep.
So if you're listening to this, that is very important right there.
It is gold.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one more time.
Please.
How do you earn the right to earn your wife's trust?
All right, so the best things that you could do, and this is formula based. This is one of the best things that you could do. Those micro trusts, like making sure that you're taking care of food or taking care of a pet or making sure that you take a kid to school in the morning. Those are the small ones. While doing those small ones, you set a long format one, a long-term one. Is it okay if I give you a very firm example with your position? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So if I were in your position, and this is just me speaking again from my shoes, I know what your vision, your passion is. I can see how much time, effort, energy you've put into this place. You love it. It shows. I can see you actually have you have a strong feeling, you have a love for this place. I value communication so much, and I think it's the number one most important skill that you can really dial in. You can never fully master it, but you can continue to get better at it. If I was running a podcast and I had 5 podcast studios here, and I felt like my wife had communicated to me, and I want to make sure that I'm actively listening now, I'm prioritizing my work over my family. I would try to explain for the long format goal that as I raise my 3 daughters, I want them involved in the podcast world because I want them to have networking. I want them to have contacts. I want them to understand how to communicate for themselves. As they're at a young age, I want them to do better than the kids their age. That's a hard one for your wife to fight. And you want to start prioritizing a day that they're coming into work with you so they can listen to dad and they can understand how dad is, and dad can be their role model, because that's the number one goal that's most important to you.
Yeah.
The second's the business.
Yeah. 100%.
Right.
No, I totally agree with that. And, obviously at that time I did not fully have my priorities right. And after that talk, now things have completely changed
They're
too.
set straight.
Yeah. Like when I get home, like the very first thing I do now is putting my phone in the cupboard and shut that door, and then spend like 2 hours just, with my kids and like really putting those micro trust moments with, them and with my wife and doing all of that. Today, for example, I went to lunch with my wife.
Good.
So we just decided to kind of do that and doing fun stuff and doing all of that. So, but now like earning the right and earning that trust is by doing those micro little things.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
Let's talk about now, let's go deeper into this. Let's talk about the balance between work. People talk about work-life balance all the time. Personally, I feel like there is no such thing as work-life balance. What is your take on that?
I think that it's no different than school. What I mean by that is I think that we've been shaped to believe a lot of things in school that aren't relative to life. And I think that in the entrepreneur world, and I mean this and no offense to you, people say that there's no such thing as work-life balance if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. I disagree. The whole point of being an entrepreneur in the first place is being able to shape your own reality and create things that don't currently exist and being able to bring financial gain to the world.
Yep.
If I want to do all of those things and I want to go back into the same thing that we just talked about, having your girls involved, there is such a thing as work-life balance. The idea is my life could be work with the life lessons that I teach my kids that they would not otherwise learn in school or any other paid program, because they're not going to learn it better through anybody else but their father or their mother.
Yeah.
The idea is to keep it all inclusive. It's just having a crystal clear picture of what work-life balance looks like and being on the same agreement and the same playing field as your wife. That way you guys are on the same mission.
That is exactly what I mean by there is no such thing as work-life balance. Because when people think about that, they just think, okay, work, life, I have to give 50% here and 50% there.
No.
So they're trying to balance everything. But what I mean by that is just there's no work-life balance. There's no separation. It's just sometimes you have to give 60% there and 40% there, but knowing with your wife that, okay, now when that 60% is done there, now I'm going to go 80% home and then 20% work. So kind of, there is like a back and forth kind of to it.
I like that you use that too, because I feel like the 80-20 rule is good to throw in anywhere.
Yeah.
The kids are always going to be involved in sports, so they're going to have their own hobbies, but that 80%, if I want to make it part of, this is my life, I'm going to make this great thing, and I want to teach my kids life skills that they're actually going to be able to tackle, utilize, and grow into their own person, you should utilize what you have access to. You spend a lot of money on this.
Yeah.
A lot of money on this. People spend hand over fist and things like it. And I know it's a common thing too to talk down on college or trade schools or whatever the case may be. But if you have a trade, it's no different than a trade school if it's hands-on experience. They're working closer with you. They trust you more too than they do the average person. They're going to ask you more questions than they'd ask somebody else.
Yeah.
You get more in depth on a personal level, they're going to advance a hell of a lot faster than they would somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely an important investment, and that's why I would say the opposite, but in the same way, same.
100%. What is your biggest lessons that you've learned with you have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl?
Yeah.
As running a successful business, what is the biggest lessons that you've learned as it relates to spending time at work, growing a business, and also like the familial side of things?
Yeah, it's a really good friend of mine and previous pastor and mentor. His name is Myron Golden, and he was a really good friend of mine and honestly one of the most impactful people that I've ever had the pleasure of learning from. And he taught me that wealth is measured more in time than it is in dollar value. And it took me time to really understand what that, take the time to understand what that meant until I looked up the definition. And it's abundance of valuable assets or money. And I feel like money comes second in the equation because the most valuable asset that you could have is time, which is why it's first in the definition. You need to take the time to spend money on assets that will buy you back time. And then that time that you are spending, very similar to the way that we just communicated business, needs to be allocated around the people that you love the most. That way you get the most out of what your output is. You really got to take the time to dial it in. People talk about watching the minutes that you spend throughout the day. It's not just filling time slots throughout those minutes of the day. It's how many things you can stack inside the minute that really counts. Like, again, me getting one-on-one time with my 3 daughters or 3-on-1 time with my 3 daughters inside the thing that I love most. I'm now getting work done. I'm talking to clients. I can teach them to close a deal. I can teach them how to communicate. I've now knocked out their school. They're spending time with me, and I'm getting work done. It's a lot more than just, I got work done. Both examples, the minutes filled.
Yeah.
What's the most production that I'm getting out of it and what means the most to me? How do I go to bed knowing that I'm happy at night, spending the time where I wanted most? And that felt really difficult taking the time to digest the first time. It's also been singly the most impactful thing and lesson that I've had to take the time to learn.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you do any special things with your wife to kind of, like on a, I don't know, weekly basis or anything like that, go on special dates or anything like that?
Yeah, I try. My wife, she's the definition of a homebody. I would love to go out and spoil her. And I think that same thing, inverse from the outside looking in, people are like, how do I find that? And it's great on the come up when you don't have a lot of money to spend. But then when you go through all of the trouble and you want to spoil her and it becomes next to impossible, it's kind of like, well, teeth gritting sometimes. But that's when I found a passion of, I love to cook with my wife. I love to cook. I'm a dad through and through. Put me on a grill or a smoker and we're good to go. If there is a TV series that she just wants to sit and watch and take a break, that might be our date night. And then we're both big anime nerds. So there's that too.
That's awesome. And it's good to share like commonalities between them and doing that. So we talked earlier about like you had to go through a lot of really hard times. What advice would you be willing to give to somebody with their wife going through a hard time, financial hardship, how to navigate that?
I'm just going to give you based off of biblical principles. I won't state the verses just specifically because there's so many throughout the Bible, but the best thing that I can tell you to do is, and it's very difficult to do. Let me preface with that. It's much easier to say than it is to actually implement. Regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of what situation you're in, regardless of what fight you just undertook, make sure she's taken care of first. Because the more understood that she feels, the more she'll take the time to understand you. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow because sometimes it's not one conversation. Sometimes it's multiple conversations. That could be days and that could be weeks. And that seems like a forever amount of time. But when you're wanting to spend the next 70 to 80 years together and you look back, a day, 3 or 4 conversations, even a week is nothing compared to you having a wholesome relationship together that you guys were able to build upon because you're able to get past one little rut in order to fulfill the big picture. So take the time to listen, take the time to understand, and serve her before you serve yourself.
Awesome. That was deep. That was awesome. Let's talk about your business now. So obviously you went through different entrepreneur stuff and now with Greyhound Investment?
Grey Wolf Investment.
Greyhound Investment.
All good.
Greyhound.
All good. Both very successful businesses. I'm not upset.
I know. Grey Wolf Investment. Let's talk a little bit about Grey Wolf Investment. How did you get started with that? And what are you currently doing with that to, help it grow?
Wow. Not even sure where to start with this.
Two different line.
I got fireworks going off, and it's something to be excited about. I think this is where every single entrepreneur they want to be over time. Should start back to like the very beginning when we first started Amazon, and I was telling you about what was going on, and my wife had a child on the way, and we weren't supposed to have kids, and there were complications with that. And we were there for, I want to say we were pushing day 4 at that point. I was there for 3 days, had taken time off work, was trying to run my own thing, do the Amazon thing. And there were still a couple little floors there. It was nothing like what we had booked that blew everything up. But excuse me, I had work that I had to do. I had a family I had to take care of. And that's when it shaped a massive belief for me, no different than what we just talked about with time allocations. I had to choose between financial livelihood and then being there for my wife and my son. And this really hit me the hardest, specifically because, and I do mean this, I don't wish this upon any of my worst enemies or anybody that wishes, the worst against me. There is no more terrible feeling than feeling powerless and being able to take care of your own wife and kid. And this resulted ultimately in the NICU ward of Port Charlotte Hospital getting shut down for like 6 months.
Wow.
I went away for like 4, maybe 5 hours. I came back and I went from holding my son to seeing my son in a plastic box with like 11 tubes attached to his body. And I couldn't hold him for like 12 or 13 days.
12 or 14 days?
It was like 12 to 13 days.
Wow.
And my wife's on medication. She had her own complications. I wasn't there to be able to supervise what was going on. Not that I feel like I should have to. And I feel like most people don't feel like they should have to take care of things like that. Those people are paid professionals. It just really sucked because I remember bawling down. I'm a grown man. I'm in tears sitting inside this room trying to figure out what I possibly did that was so wrong. And I'm praying and I'm mad and I'm not cursing, but I'm as close to cursing as it's going to get. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Like, what's going on? Like, I have done everything I possibly could to make sure that he was taken care of, she was taken care of. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with this work thing. This work thing's blown up. Life's already hard enough. And I think I realized from that point forward, one of the biggest foundational beliefs that I have currently implemented in Grey Wolf is being able to buy time back, specifically for people to be able to make money. That way they don't have to choose between their livelihood and being there for the people that matter most to them. That hurt so much that I don't feel like anybody, and I know that people have, but nobody deserves to have to go through that. And it's unfortunate that it's the world that we live in, that those are decisions that people have to face every single day. So if I can wedge myself in the market and I can bridge that gap, that's what I want to provide to the people that are involved with us.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Grey Wolf Investment?
Good question. Family man. I hope people would get that by now. My first son is Grayson Zane. My second son's Maxwell Wolf. So I took Grey Wolf, and we're an investment firm, so it only seemed natural to throw investing at the end of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate a little bit more about like the services that you provide to other people as like your realty investment? So somebody watching this video can know exactly how they can, reach out to you, or what can you help them with?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we take an approach that people that are watching this every single day already participate in. You just don't know that you do. If you're showing up to your house and your wife has 4 or 5 packages at your doorstep, the chances are she probably bought it from one of the storefronts that we host on Amazon. We take everyday wholesalers, large wholesalers, big brand name wholesalers, and due to an NDA, I won't say them currently on camera, but you're taking your family to places like this in Orlando on very expensive trips that have toys that are included sometimes for Christmas, and we're packaging those and I'm allocating those in certain storefronts. That way I can create you your own very own Publix or Walmart or Winn-Dixie or Food Lion or even our Ralph's if you're on the West Coast. And I'm putting it on Amazon storefront and I'm splitting a profit share with you, no different than you would with the property management company, as if you bought real estate and then somebody else took care of it and you guys split the profit. The difference is I'm buying digital real estate with one of two largest markets inside of all of America. They made $576 billion in the year of 2023. 63% of that were third-party sellers.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I receive 10 packages every day.
There you go.
Like I literally just had like 4 or 5 of them delivered today. So that may be coming from like, some of the thing that you just described. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So do you go and teach people how to do that, or do they come and basically just host that with you too, just hosting those with you? Or
there was a point in time about 7-8 years ago now where I was teaching people individually how to do it. But now it's grown into this thing where, to be very clear, they're one of $2 trillion companies in America. So they're going to continue to advance at a rapid rate. Amazon is not designed for singular sellers anymore. It takes having buying power and a buying pool, and that's what makes this make the most sense. A lot of people will say things like, if you can make so much money, why don't you just do it for yourself? And in the grand scheme of things, it's coming from a place of ignorance, and that's okay because you don't understand it, but no different than you telling a rich person, you're so rich, why do you borrow money from the bank? The more leverage that you have, the more leverage you can pool, the more buying power I have, the better margins that I get. It's not just that, it's against Amazon's terms of service to even host more than a handful of stores by your own, and that's if you earn the right. So I wouldn't even be able to host the 300 storefronts by myself, even if I wanted to. They do limit those caps. So the only way to really take advantage of that is take my resources, take my team and what they specialize in, and I use you as much as you use me. You're going to have an LLC that's set up, and we're going to use your liquid capital and your LLC. So now I have another name that's not attached to me, and I just run it, I manage it, which as of, I think that we had talked about this earlier on, Christmas Day of 2024, we finally got the SPN contract from Amazon. We're officially partnered with Amazon.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many employees do you currently have?
A little north of 100. Well, it's 104. I was going to say a little north of 100.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about this morning. I know the specific numbers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Cool. What was the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout growing that journey? Obviously, like it can be with teams, it can be with some setbacks that you've had. What are some of the biggest lessons? Because having 100 employees, that's a big feat, and that's crazy amount of employees. What is your biggest lessons that you've learned?
I've had two, and one we've already covered, and one that was just the humor. And if you're spiritual by any means, it's if you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans because he's got his own that are in store for you. And the second is, regardless of how much you dump into somebody or how much you want to be good for any specific person that you care about the most, you can't want it more than they can, and you can't walk them to success. They'll cause more damage than they cause good. And you really got to set up like a 3-strike marker, because if you continue to keep giving these passes, wanting the best for people, it continues to cause more damage and harm to the company. And all those things that you work for, there's like massive setbacks that draw back with that, versus the one person that you're actually trying to hope to see succeed. And very specifically in this case, I had about almost 18 people walk away because one specific person that was really close to me that had a lot of potential, and they decided to throw it away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a tough one for me.
Yeah. We are nearing completion to the talk show, but I'm going to ask you 3 questions. The first one will be, all of them will be, what is your biggest advice about something specific? First, obviously you've had a lot of challenges throughout your whole life to kind of where you are now today with, big setbacks and making some ballsy moves. What would be your advice to somebody that is struggling, that like wants to do something, but they're scared to take the next step? What would be your advice, for them as they are entering that journey in their life?
I mean, it goes 2 ways. You can be scared and not do anything about it, and then you continue to live scared because you're going to continue to think that you're going to do the same thing for the next 10 years. So either act or forget about the thing. It's very straightforward. A lot of people don't know how to get out of their own way, and a lot of times, I would say 95% of the time, that is the issue, is you're in your own way, which is why you can't start and why you can't get the thing done.
Awesome. What would be your biggest advice as it relates to parenting?
Be patient, specifically with parenting. And I learned this lesson through social psychology too, and just kind of recollecting the way that it really hit me the day that I took the time to break it down and paid attention to it. Parenting is more about learning how to control your own emotions, not learning how to control your child's. And the more patience that you take with yourself, they have that figure that they need to look at to understand how to act and how to behave, because regardless of what you do, if you raise your voice or if you yell or if you do those things, they copy you one way or another. If you want to shape them, be the person that you want them to be.
Awesome. What is your biggest advice about, growing with your wife, growing your relationship with your wife, and about work-life balance, about building that relationship, basically?
I would say specific. It's different. It goes based off the relationship type. If you're more of an ambitious person, you should talk more about the things that you want to do. That way you guys can get on the same page. And you should set those micro trusts. I'm just, regardless of where you're at in your relationship, do that anyway. But even if you don't, you take the time to pay attention to that person more than you do yourself. And I really can't drive that point home enough. And I know we talked about it earlier, but if you really want the biggest ROI on any relationship, you dump more into that person. So rather than you asking about the things that you need from them, they're going to give it to you anyway, because you're already willing to give them the thing that they're not having to ask you for, or they're yelling at you for. It could be both ways. But if you just give in and you dump in, you're going to get it back tenfold. It's just the way that it works. It's the rule of reciprocation.
Awesome. And lastly, what is your biggest advice about growing a business?
It's going to sound very controversial, but I would just say be wildly ambitious, but set very low expectations. It's really hard to get upset.
Boom. Awesome. Man, that was a fantastic time chatting with you. For anybody watching this, how can they get a hold of you? How can they reach out to you if they want to learn more about you and potentially learning more about Gray Wolf Investment?
Yeah, if you guys want to look into Gray Wolf Investing, the website's up. If you guys look through anything in the state of Florida, Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, the company was awarded the key to the city in 2022, which is a pretty monumental achievement.
That is fantastic.
We're a member of government and NAW. We're part of National Association of Wholesale. And then if you just want to try to contact us on personal pages, I still give out personal advice on sales psychology. You can follow me at Sales God on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube. If you look, you'll find us.
There you go. There you have it. It was awesome, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you
having me.
Let's go.